around this long. I want to ask you to do two things. One, if you will, at the registration table, drop off your name badges. I mean, you can pull your own card out of it, but we, Cape Fear River Assembly, just bought these this year, and we hope to not have to buy them next year. But anyhow, and the other thing I want to mention to you is as you go out the door, there's a lot of snacks. More snacks than Lisa and I can eat, or even my son. So, I mean, we're basically asking you to pick up a few on your way out the door. And then there's also going to be question slips passed around. I guess, is that right, Janet? That's what you're doing?
If you don't have a white sheet of paper, hold up your hand and I'll bring you one. We'd like questions for the upcoming panel.
Good.
And they could be anything you want. I'll collect them.
Oh, anything. Yeah, there you go.
Ask the panel.
All right, everybody. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jen Schmitz, who's a water quality planner with Triangle J Council of Governments. And that's all I'm going to say at this point. Thank you. Thanks again for coming.
Thanks, Tom. And again, yes, thanks to all who have stayed for this panel. We really hope that the diversity on this group will really bring a lot of the topics that we talked about today to a head, to a discussion, engage in. And as Janet mentioned, there are white pieces of paper, so please feel free to write down a question, pass it down to her or me or the I, and we'll get them. This is a lot less structure than our previous topics throughout the day and our presentations. Just really a Q&A session and hearing from these great experts in the water quality field and other local governments, their thoughts on these issues. So I did want to add to what Tom said with the logistics is please recycle. There's somebody's outside.
One so far. So if you have questions, pass them this way and I'll collect them up.
So briefly, I would like to introduce myself. Again, I'm Jen Schmitz from the Triangle J Council of Governments. There are several COG representatives here in the room, assigned from the Upper Basin. And we have Tim White, who you just met on the previous panel, again, one of the editorial. We have Aaron Riggs from the Environmental Finance Center at the UNC School of Government. We have Commissioner Rob Dabble from New Hanover County. Commissioner Glenn Adams from Cumberland County. Todd Kennedy from Moffett and Nichol, and Tracy Scrable from Coastal Federation. And they'll go through and introduce themselves in more detail and their diverse expertise. And the mics are in the center there, so hopefully you can
Say, do not pick up my I see the big disc.
That's the mic.
That's right. Speak loud. Speak loud. Has everybody decided that I'm going first?
We're the open of the year.
I was supposed to go first, and I was supposed to go last, but you know, because I'm tired from just talking. All right. Water quality is why is it essential to our future? Well, a whole lot of reasons. Number one is we all don't want to get sick. Number two is clean water. Ultimately, leaving the water clean is a lot cheaper than having to clean it up later. It's a taxpayer issue, and I think we need to frame it as that more often with our legislators and with all of our elected and political leaders that we are going to pay a lot of money. Just a few minutes ago, we heard how many extra dollars per year every ratepayer in the local water system is going to be paying just to pay for the cleanup. And if you think that yours is going to be paying for it tomorrow, I got news for you. Those suits last a long time, and you never know how they're going to turn out. And so the real likelihood is that people around here are going to pay for their cleaner water. The people in Fayetteville are going to pay for their cleaner water. People everywhere up and down our river and across the state. We're going to have to pay to clean it up because we got a mess out there. As you've heard all day, Gen X ain't the whole story. There's a whole lot of other stuff in the water. And this is a big public policy issue. How are we going to pay for this after we decide that we're going to clean it up? But you know, I think what's happening in Wilmington is a sign of what's going to happen in other places as well, that this is a growing public awareness, recognition of what's going on with our water supply and the fact that it has been underprotected by the people who we thought were protecting it. And a lot of eyes are being opened by all this. We need clean water for our health. We need it for our safety.
We need it for our children, we need it for all of these many reasons, but we're gonna get it when this translates into a political movement that can make the people who appropriate the money and make the laws do something about it. And until that happens, we're gonna be very frustrated. So a lot of work needs to be done.
So Tim started the precedent of a community-wide water quality is essential for the future, so it'd be great, panelists, if you would share introducing yourselves and why water quality is essential to you, your career, and your future.
Sure. Okay. I'm Erin Riggs from the Environmental Finance Center at UNC School of Government, and some of you I know we work with your local government, but basically we're a center that helps to finance environmental initiatives for local governments. We do applied research and advising and help with some program development. And we create rate dashboards that we have in North Carolina that some local governments can probably use for rate setting. But I'm a project director. I'm an attorney by trade, but I'm also a project director at the school government, and I manage the programs of the nutrient management study that the legislature has commissioned. That's been going on in the second year, Jordan Lake watershed, and then the next 3 years are for Falls Lake. So we are working in that nutrient management study. We've been working on kind of inventorying the costs that are going into nutrient management in Jordan Lake, where they're coming from, who's paying for them, what sort of collaboration is happening, if any, how effective, how cost effective to the extent that we can measure those practices are, and I'm just kind of understanding what local governments and other entities in the watershed, their struggles and what they feel about the current regulatory framework and how they can afford it. I think that that's one of the biggest concerns that we have heard echoed from most of the local governments, was this concern about how they could pay for a lot of the retrofits and measures that would be necessary to comply with the current regulations, which are on hold at the moment. And so we're trying to come up with some strategies. We at the EFC are trying to come up with some strategies that might work, trying to look at some different alternatives for how to approach addressing water quality issues that are less cost per pound reduction and more holistic, for one water approaches or other GMPs that have community benefits and that people might be better interested in getting on board with. So we're looking at that. I think that Tim already highlighted all the reasons that water is essential for the future. I think that one of the things that we're really concerned about in our research and our work for Jordan is not waiting until a crisis like Gen X hits the Jordan Lake watershed for people to think that it's necessary to start to really hone in on these strategies and to start investing more significantly financially and through their policies and development codes in their communities to make sure that they're addressing it before it gets all the way downstream to you all in this part of the watershed. So I'll just leave it at that and the other stuff.
Good afternoon. My name is Rob Zappel. I have the honor and the privilege of serving those of you who live here in New Hanover County as one of your county commissioners. And I want to thank everybody for sticking out. I know it's been a really long couple of days for you, so thanks for sticking around for this. Hopefully we'll keep it entertaining. Thank you, Dr. Hogan, and thank you, Jen, for allowing me to sit on this panel. As elected official, our core mission is the protection of the public's health and safety. So we start talking about our river, and Cape Fear River, where we get 80% of our drinking water here in New Hanover County. And then we extend that out to over 400,000 people in the lower Cape Fear Basin catchment area. It doesn't get more basic than the issue we're talking about today. It really does. As human beings, we can live without a whole lot of different things. The one thing we cannot live without is water, and clean, fresh water. So what we're talking about today goes really to the core of what I do as an elected official and what we all have to do as humans. But also the Cape Fear River means, and we've heard a lot about it in the last couple of days, a whole lot more to all of us. Certainly the estuaries, the back bays, the protection they provide us during hurricanes and flooding events, absorbing the waters that come through there. That protects our property values, our property, our structures, our infrastructure, and in many cases protects our lives. Another aspect, of course, is the commercial aspects of having a port. One of only 2 ports in North Carolina on the Cape Fear River. as well as the commercial fisheries and the kind of booming oyster farming, which we just have to look to states to the north and south of us to see what the potential is there. It's really huge. There's a whole other industry that's starting to go with that. So the Cape Fear River and its sustainability, its cleanliness is important to us at all different levels. So I, for one, am for it, and looking forward to this conversation.
I'm Glenn Adams. I'm a county commissioner from Cumberland County. And when she said the experts on the panel, she wasn't talking about me. Because I would tell you this, is that I live in the city of Fayetteville, and you know, PWC does the water, I drink the water, and I keep on moving, which is what a lot, I think Tim was talking about, folk who are not around the Gen X in Cumberland County, basically, it's not an issue to them. And so that is what steered the conversation. But for me, the way I got into all of this was the interbasin water transfer. That's where it all started with me, even before that predated the Gen X, is that those upstream in the Jordan and Raleigh and those wanting to take the water out of the Cape Fear and put it back over in the Neuse, even though they had built a $300 million plant to be able to do that. Well, what does that do but slow down the flow of water down the Cape Fear? Those pollutants, when you're talking about those pig farms and it might dilute, it's not going to happen if you don't have a good flow of the water. Down in New Hanover, you end up with the algae blooms as that happens. And so in Cumberland County, we were talking about, PWC actually filed a lawsuit against Raleigh and Cary and all of those on the interwater basin transfer. So that's where mine actually started. And then we came to, just as a county commissioner, we always, the problems just keep happening. Lucky enough for me, I was chairman last year, it happened right near the end, is the Gen X came. And I do, in terms of talking to DEQ, which I did at the end, one of the things that I did appreciate from them is they didn't have any answers, and they told us they didn't have any answers. They were in the blind as much as anybody else. And that wasn't comforting to us and wasn't comforting to all of those folks that were around me. But then what became a bigger issue to me than the water was water flows downhill. So why was Gen X above the Chemours plant? And it was the plume out of the stacks, is that when it came up and it got into the air would blow it anywhere. Once it mixed with water, it became Gen X. So that's how it ended up being around a lot of the area, even above and around the plant, when you would have thought it would have been downriver. So to me, the plume that comes out is as big an issue as it is for the water. From our standpoint, and I'm not going to follow this, is that then it just creates a lot of issues for county commissioners. We got citizens calling and saying, because you got Gen X, I can't sell my house, so my property value is gone. I need you to reduce my taxes. That has an effect right in budget season in terms of, wait a minute, I can't just do that. And they don't understand it because they hadn't tried to sell it. There are no comps. So now my tax office, who's getting a lot of questions, saying I can't reduce it because I don't have any comps to be able to do that. So it is just it just keeps on rolling, and it's hitting all of those different areas. So I'll leave it at that. That's all I'm doing.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Todd Kennedy. I'm an environmental consultant with Moffitt & Nichol. I have been working in the water quality and watershed management arena for just over 20 years. I conducted my graduate research actually in the late 90s, early 2000s on the Middle Cape Fear River. I worked early in my career for the state, and during that time I worked on a number of projects in the basin, including on Jordan Lake and the TMDL, the early TMDL work there. As a consultant, I worked again up and down the watershed, and I'm working in the watershed up until today, including down here in the lower river. During, I guess, my time as a consultant, I've had the opportunity to work across the U.S. With water quality management at all levels of government. Just a point about some of my more recent work. I led a research project for the U.S. EPA Global Climate Program, looking at the potential impacts of climate change on stormwater, with part of the aim to be providing some of the science to help understand those effects, but also develop some guidance for policymakers and stormwater managers to begin to plan for that inevitability. I think that sort of, I guess, comment there is a good segue to one of the things that I wanted to start off with here. We've heard quite a bit today about sort of the challenges that our institutions have faced, with Gen X and so forth. And I think one of my concerns is when you think about just the issues of eutrophication and stormwater and wastewater quality, drinking water and so forth, those issues that have been with us for some time, how will our institutions handle those when you overlay the effects of climate change, for example, and with looking at the dwindling of state resources and some other challenges that a number of people have brought to life today. I think that's a big question that we've all got to think about. I think there are a lot of different sort of solutions that we can talk about here on this panel and consider. I certainly think one of them, and I was excited to hear about some of these things today, one of the solutions includes more locally driven management and initiatives for sort of local citizens and their elected officials to, as much as they can, take things into their own hands rather than waiting for the state and federal government to step in. So with that, I'll stop there.
Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Sprable. I'm a coastal scientist and a Southeast Regional Manager for the Coastal Federation. And the Coastal Federation is a member-based organization. We have, how you do the math, 11 to 13,000 members, and we operate in and work in the 20 coastal counties. So I'm the manager for this southern region. And what we do, quite simply, is all focused on coastal water quality, coastal natural resource protection, and the way that we do our work is really in conjunction with partners, collaborations, and that, I really enjoyed listening to the risk talk because we spent a lot of time trying to work with our members, but work with non-traditional partners, or work with those who would, in theory, oppose our positions, figure out what people's motivation is. So why do we care about water quality? I think it's all of those things, and really, why I'm motivated is probably very different than why some of you all are motivated. It doesn't really matter. What really matters is that we are not going to get there if we are segmented as a population, especially on issues like Gen X. So, whether you're motivated by your childhood growing up on Chesapeake Bay, as I was, where things collapsed in the 1980s, and then we moved here, my husband and I moved here, and things were a lot better, but there were the same challenges, and I was really surprised and trying to figure out why aren't more people, more motivated. And somebody said to me, and it was, I am famous for stupid quips, and I'm sorry, but the one that stuck with me is, it ain't got bad enough yet. It got bad enough in Chesapeake Bay when the crabs went away, when oysters went away, when there was a total ecosystem shift when I was doing my graduate work. And things are good in North Carolina when we moved here, and have been good, and I think it just got bad enough, because, as my good friend Rob said, water is life. And so, when we talk about water quality, I find myself, in the last 20 years that I've been doing this, talking about fish, talking about quality of life, talking about your commerce, businesses, whatever, all those things. But it is only recently that we've really had to talk about, and the water we drink, by the way. And so I think we are in a 100% different world. Legislatively, we're in a different world. It has been a rough few years for the conservation community and the legislature, that is fair to say. We used to be able to talk about water quality in a more friendly administration, and we could talk about all the usual quality of life, birds and bees. Those days, you know, aren't gone forever, but we've had to be much more creative. My colleagues are up in Raleigh right now talking about oysters today with the legislature, because that's a common ground. Oysters happen to be exceptionally good for water quality. So we're gonna put a lot of emphasis on oysters, because that's where we can get some traction right now, and find those that common ground. So, I guess the message I would have is, there's a role for every single organization, and we spend a lot of our time trying to keep all the groups talking to each other. And we're having to get a lot better at it, because we don't have the luxury anymore of you know, being necessarily, getting that door opened at every door that we knock on in the legislature. So whether you're with the media, whether you're one of our members with the Federation, whether you're a researcher, elected officials, whether you're the agencies, we better all be talking to each other there. You cannot take any of these factions out of the formula and succeed. I'm thrilled to hear you talk about your understanding of, you know, the conversion of the precursor to Gen X and how it interacts with water. We didn't even know those words 6 months ago. So, I mean, I didn't know those words, and, you know, I'm married to one of the researchers, so. But the point is that we're becoming more informed because we have to, and people are not, just, if you will, taking a narrow opinion, so that's a very long-winded answer.
So Tracy, you've done two things for me. One, you've affirmed that the commissioner is a water quality expert.
He is, in fact.
And two, you have made it very easy for me to select my next question. So this is from the audience, and it is, what is the most effective way to bring an issue to the attention of elected officials? And that's exactly what you just mentioned, is that we can, you know, do all this work, but the elected officials are the ones that need to make the changes. So what's the most, and this is for everyone, county commissioners, of course, have a special interest in this. So how do we bring attention to these issues?
I think the oysters are a great metaphor. You know, I mean, everybody in Raleigh, all the lawmakers, they love their oysters. They love their oysters. And when they hear, what do you mean I can't have any oysters? You know, I mean, that's going to be bad enough. You know, it's definitely going to get bad enough if they can't have their oysters in Raleigh anymore. Common ground.
I'll take a stab at this. I think it's really important for elected officials to be available and to be held accountable, but really be available out in the community. So what works with me is somebody coming up at the produce aisle at Harris Teeter and saying directly to me, I've got a concern. And here's the concern, and whether it's water quality or it's affordable housing or an economic development issue, but to not feel as though somebody else is going to bring it forward for the public to take the initiative when they pick up the phone, email, text, or again, you see that official at an event, you wait till the end, you walk up and say, can I talk with you? And here's my issue. I've learned more from the public in that manner than any other way. And of course, reading the newspaper, I might add. So,
Well, I think it's and he will probably agree with me, is that when we're sitting there in getting ready to have a commissioners meeting, and the whole room is packed, the very first question goes up and down, what are they here for? And so, and I mean, that's what happens. It's difficult, everybody on the conversation, do you know what they're here for? That's the very first question that happens. It's difficult to get traction sometimes in Raleigh. But the way I believe you get traction is with your local officials, so that you come to the county commissioners, you come to your city council, and you put pressure on them, because we're in the community more than the folk from Raleigh. They really don't hear from constituents, because we're going to all of these things. Then we have to put the pressure on Raleigh. It's an upward chain, I think. When you all come, you all can't go to Raleigh and sit in the General Assembly and sit there with all those legislators. But when you come in that room where the county commissioners are and the city council are, and you sitting there with your face and saying, we want something done with this issue, I think it happens, and it moves up the chain. It's just pressure that's being applied all the way up the chain, and that's how I think these things get done. I think that's... But it is frustrating, though. I will tell you that, and he may tell you, I was frustrated with the whole Gen X issue, is that we did get a lot of pressure from the county, but we had no control. We don't regulate, we don't fine, we can't give you permission or permits to discharge. All of that's done out of Raleigh DEQ, but the first line is to the county commissioners, and they came to us saying, what are you gonna do about this problem? And we were sitting there saying, yeah, well, we need to call DEQ and call Raleigh. And that's how we got that whole conversation.
Just one add on to that, and I wouldn't have your job for anything, honestly, but the thing that I would just add to that conversation is not so much the what you say to them, but how. And I would say that, you know, we've learned that civility is highly underrated and is really key. And really, we work with a lot of citizens who talk to elected officials, and we provide them with science-based reasoning, if you will, on issues, and that's very much what we do for a living. But what I usually just tell people is, number one, speak from your heart, because that's really what's going to connect. Number two, this takes a lot of time, but develop a relationship. You have to develop a relationship. I have relationships with elected officials who we are diametrically opposed on a number of issues, but I have relationships, whether it's through basketball or church or whatever it is, and it just means that it makes it more difficult to just give them the Heisman, if you will. And so take the time to develop that relationship.
Well, tying it back to more technical aspects from today and what Commissioner Adams said about taking it to Raleigh, would expanded regulatory authority at both the state and federal levels be a good solution to improve drinking surface water quality? Drinking and oral surface water quality.
Excuse me, could you mention the questions this way?
Is this working?
When you're close enough.
Is expanded regulatory authority at both the state and federal levels a good solution to improve drinking and or surface water quality?
If DEQ had was funded and had the people to regulate, maybe we'd have a chance to find out. Because at this point, we have a 40% backlog in permit reviews, and not enough boots on the ground, to use an overworked term. It's really hard to make a judgment as to whether or not it will work.
Yes, Ann?
I just, from some of the work and research that we've done related to One Water and speaking with some of the local governments on the ground, one of the findings we took away from our first year of the study was looking at how people are spending their water, and just the current regulatory framework, which is not expanded, but the Jordan Lake rules, which are a headache for a lot of people, as you know. When I asked the question, what are you investing in Jordan Lake, the answers were completely framed within this regulatory framework of, well, this is what the tool says, that we're going to get in production, this is how much we can do it, and where there's an absence of compliance with those regulations or the most cost-effective solution, people weren't doing anything. And so we're a part of the JLO, or participating in the One Water approach of looking at things in this more holistic watershed management, and looking at things like what's going on in Chesapeake and other alternatives for finance. So regulations often are creating these fragmented spending situations. In some of the local governments, we had situations where stormwater and wastewater were sitting in the same room and realizing for the first time, it seemed what each department was spending for nutrient management in Jordan Lake, and we're like, well, why are we spending our money like that if we're getting those reductions for that? It was like there was no communication happening, and so regulation, it's not always a good thing, and depending on how it's done, it can work against some of these approaches that are having more effects around the country that have more benefits from the people and create better water quality. It may be at a higher cost, but there's more things that are happening that people want to pay for than just some pipe, that is upgraded or something like that. So.
Everybody else, I'll just add a couple of points here. I think somebody touched on it. We absolutely need better enforcement of the existing regs that we have and rules, and that's a capacity issue. We don't have the capacity currently for the reasons you just heard. We also and you'll hear this from all the experts, we need more research so that we can actually arrive at more meaningful human health standards. We're not even sure what the safe levels are, not just for Gen X type compounds, but for, a number of compounds similar to them that are not yet on our radar. So we've got to put more money into that, and that's a regulatory, but a human health department issue as well. And then we need to close the loopholes that we're just now finding out about with issues like Gen X around failure of these industries to have to disclose their PBS discharges, the fact that they do not have to, that they're not regulated for byproduct discharges to the main constituents that they're creating. Now, all these things we're finding out about, and it's going to take time, but I think we need to keep pressure around the meaningful regulatory changes, but also enforcement of the ones we have.
But, you know, I also think education, though. I think you gotta educate, the people. Until the crisis comes, nobody really cares about it. But there's so much stuff that happens. I'm all about the preventive stuff. If we can educate people and prevent it from the start, it makes the regulatory a little bit easier to be able to do so. I don't think we put enough money up at the front end of this, and we have to go to the front end, even though you got to have the enforcement and all that. But if you can have the education piece, that's gonna help all the way down in terms of anything we do.
So this is a good question then for both the scientific and non-scientific people on the panel. How can the scientific community communicate effectively with a largely non-scientific media and the public so that they properly understand these issues?
Yeah, I talked about that in the previous panel, actually, and that is, first of all, don't be afraid of your local newspaper or news media, no matter whether it's radio or television or whatever you've got in your town. It could be just a little weekly newspaper, it could be the NNO in Raleigh, whatever it is, don't be afraid of them. If you're a researcher, you're doing something that's really important, you know stuff that the public needs to know. And the people that are involved in the media, it's their job to sit and talk with you and ask you a lot of stupid questions so that they can translate it to the public, and the public will understand what's going on and what doing the education piece that Glenn was talking about. And that's what media are. One of the things that media are all about is educating the public about what's happening out there. But we're not doing the research, so we don't know until somebody comes to us and says, this is a really serious problem, and there's a pretty good solution here. You look at it, and geez, maybe we are right about that.
I'm going to take a slightly different tact on it there. As a public official, we get an enormous amount of information that comes to us. And I think it's up to the public to a certain extent, but it really should be among our own peers, that we do the darn reading. We actually sit down and try and work it through. We're given access to a lot of really smart people throughout our entire community. I know if I have something, an issue, I call up Frank or Beth over here. I call up Ken over here, especially on water issues, or Tracy. And they pick up the phone if I don't understand it and help me walk through it. But it starts with putting the time in, digging in the details, and asking the questions. There are people in this room that will talk for hours to help me understand an issue. So as an elected official, you got to start with the reading and then reach out and get that help you need if you need further understanding. But you got to read.
Well, I would tell you, and she was talking about what I knew about the genetic. We don't know what we don't know. I mean, that's, when I sat in the room with DEQ and we started talking about Gen X, it was, just asking questions. And I think from the elected official standpoint and from the scientific community, is you got to dumb it down. At first, for us to be able to even understand, they were talking about parts per trillion and how they did this and how they came up with that test until I finally said, but how did you do that test? Oh, we kind of made that, well, not made it up, but we kind of, it was interesting the way they explained it to me. We just kind of came to a synopsis, and this is how we decided this was the level that we were going to do it at. At that point, it had no scientific relationship to me. I was like, I could have done that. But for us, it is about reading and all the data that we get, but it is about people calling us and saying, did you hear this, or did you see that? Or even to send us some stories from somewhere else, from West Virginia or from the Chesapeake, because after we read it, then we can formulate some questions to ask the people in the room that I think the newspaper's not going to get and the general public's not going to get. When we sat down and talked to DEQ, I think because we were in some doors, they were a little bit more relaxed and able to give you some information that you wouldn't have normally gotten but for that. So it all is data driven and trying to get the information to the elected officials.
You know, I agree that the media serves an important role here, but I also think governmental agencies at all levels can help bridge the gap between the scientific community and the citizenry, non-governmental organizations as well. You know, we obviously face a challenge there that's been brought up several times today is resources. You know, the state is having to focus on its reaction and to Gen X. And I'm guessing it doesn't have the resources to sort of focus on the citizen education aspect of that. But you know, I think that is something we should ask our elected officials and the agencies to do, is help educate the broader citizenry by bridging that gap between the research community and sort of the lay person.
Well, I thought we'd branch a little bit into industry. This conference is about emerging contaminants. This specific panel is about the water quality in the future and how essential that is to us. There are two questions about industry related to that. One is water recreation, and this is a big area here in Wilmington and Fayetteville and down in Cape Fear. Water recreation is a big and growing industry. What are your opinions about challenges and opportunities concerning conflicting uses of the river? So that's, they mentioned paddling, launching dams, fishing, etc.
In New Hanover County and also the city of Wilmington, we've just finished developing our 2016 future land use plan. One of the most interesting parts of it, it's got a lot of interesting parts in it, but one that I find most intriguing but has not gotten a lot of traction are the blueways, which connect the variety of river and intracoastal waterways as well as streams, etc. And I'm a big proponent of connecting that and making use of it. I think that our river is not used anywhere near as much as it could be. I know Doug Springer, I think many of you who live here know, owns the Wilmington Water Tours, has come to me again at the grocery store first and then is followed it up. Is trying to get a water taxi that'll go from the airport down to the downtown area, down to the New Embassy Suite Hotel and then down to the foot of Market Street. You know, it was fabulous, but it was one of those conversations that we've all had or had where it goes on for several months, and every time I'd see him, he would talk to me. One day, he literally grabbed me by the elbow and said, "Come on, you have 40 minutes." I said, "Oh, geez, yeah, kind of," and hopped on his boat and took it. And I mean, in less than 12 to 15 minutes, we'd gone up the most gorgeous ride up the Cape Fear, up the Smith Creek, and all the way over, not quite the airport, but to where one of the bridges were. I was knocked out. It was absolutely gorgeous, and and how lucky I was to see that, but what great sense this made. How cool would it be to fly into Wilmington, get off, hop on a little tram that would take you to the boat dock there, and then your entry into Wilmington would be through the river, down Smith Creek, which is gorgeous, reaching out the history over here, and then to roll into this downtown that is vibrant and prospering. That's making use of the river, as well as all the other commercial aspects we talked about. Sorry.
Now we know why he's commissioner in New Hanover. Got me moving to New Hanover. I'm ready to go. I want a boat ride.
Anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, I think people are naturally drawn to water, so water recreation is an excellent way of educating people about the water. I know I've done a lot of paddling here in New Hanover County, and there's some just great places for kayaking here. And every time I do it, I come back and say, wow, man, it is really, really beautiful. But invariably too, I learn something while I'm out too. I learn a little bit more about the natural environment or wherever I've gone and taken a kayak with me. It's always been an eye opener, and I always come back asking local folks questions about it. And I think it's an excellent educational opportunity for the involved in that industry to help the public better understand water quality issues.
So I'll expand on that with this next question. So how do we balance all of the uses and needs? So that's water tourism, fishing, aquaculture, et cetera, with the risks of, they mentioned offshore drilling, stormwater runoff, so basically all the inherent risks to our water quality. Can and should they all exist together?
Yeah, I mean, I think they should coexist together. I think that we have sort of a federal regulatory construct under the Clean Water Act that starts with designating uses of water bodies. Again, from there you have standards that protect those uses and enforcement of those standards. Where I think things start to get challenging is some of the implementation of that, given some of the holes in the regulatory structure as well. I think it's a challenge.
I would just add, I think one of the ways we attempt to get our hands around this is through watershed planning. There's been a lot of, and we have been working in a number of counties to do watershed plans, whether it's within the county or the town or a municipality. And the reason why we do that is really these decisions should be made locally. If we learn nothing from the 8-year debacle of Titan America, the proposed cement plant, is that we cannot wait or expect the state and federal governments to know, number one, which industries should coexist or exist in our communities and what our top priorities should be. It has to be generated locally, and the pressure has to come from the bottom up, from the community, saying, we don't see a role for a cement manufacturing plant, one of the dirtiest industries in the world, in our community. And that's how you start, and you have to make those, and that has to translate into zoning, into regulations, into land use plans. Every land use plan I've ever worked on has, when they pull the citizens' quality of life and protection of the environment as number 1 and 2. That does not translate into decisions on the ground in terms of permits and development by development decisions. So we're not there yet, but I firmly believe it has to be a community-led effort and everybody has to engage.
And I'll play devil's advocate just a little bit. And I understand quality of life, and I believe in quality of life. But as a county commissioner, I have a whole nother section of my community that talks about economic development and whether our kids are going to move back to Cumberland County or supposed to go to Raleigh and Durham. And so there is pressure when these companies come as to whether are you going to allow them to come into your community, because you got to have that economic base to be able to do that. You can't raise property taxes but so many times before everybody has a mass exodus from your community. So it is a balancing act among the commissioners on zoning issues and all of that. And so I do believe, though, that people have to come out and talk about that quality of life issue, because the people come out and talk about economics are going to come. They're like, look, I need those $40 an hour jobs, $20 an hour jobs, or whatever, $40,000 a year. I ain't really worried about that. I don't live on that river anyway. I live over here. I need to be able to have a job. It is a balancing issue. So it may sound simple to say we're going to do this, but we're confronted with that each and every day when an economic opportunity comes. And whether that's something that this community, I'll tell you, in Cumberland County, we had a big chicken plant. Tim will tell you, it actually went to Robinson County and St. Paul's as opposed to Cumberland County, because we had some people who didn't want it that close to the Cape Fear River because of the runoff. And so we lost a Fortune 500 company to go to Robertson County, that's employing people from Cumberland County down there. But that's that balance that we do every single day that we sit in there. I mean, it's a little tougher, when you're sitting in that chair and, you know, single mother doesn't have a job, or her son doesn't have a job. It's difficult.
I was gonna add in about, just because of bringing in the financial perspective on, having these harmonious uses. It's just this, struggle that we have in Jordan, as a lot of you know, it's just the people who are currently paying a lot of money for the regulations don't use the lake, from a direct standpoint, for recreation, for water supply. And so there's this real tension, and if you're talking about some sort of structure or strategy to have this coexisting of recreation and water supply use and flood control and other, the ability to discharge, then from a financial standpoint, our perspective on it is to try to draw a broader base of revenue to be pulling from all those different uses and sources, so that when you get a water quality crisis like Gen X, or just the nutrient struggles that they have in Jordan, or any water quality crisis, that there's a bigger base of revenue to be pulling from that is more equitable in a sense, because of that ability to have your boat tourism and also be able to pull water and drink it in your community, or use it for your discharging for your industry. So we're trying to look at it from this perspective of drawing a big boundary to pull revenue from. There's political implications to that, and policies that are in the way. But for instance, for recreation, there are a ton of people who recreate on Jordan Lake who do not pay anything for water quality. There's no fee on their water quality. They're state regulated park, so that would be a state policy issue. But you know, currently water supply users of Jordan Lake are not paying for water quality, and this disconnect between supply and quality, or recreation and quality, is something that could be moving towards something that's more integrative and brings in more revenue for water quality concerns.
Well, Erin, I will revise the question I was going to ask. This question is specifically for you. What would you consider alternatives to the stormwater control measures and ordinances that were incorporated into the Jordan Lake nutrient management study? And of course, that could be strategies. And that could be, you know, replicated all of the basin. It doesn't necessarily have to be Jordan Lake. But what are their alternatives to stormwater management that we can consider?
Then what you mean from the retrofits that were written in the rules? Okay.
Well, I would assume it would be what you just mentioned, the one water.
Yeah, so so currently requiring the retrofits for each individual community, to be retrofitting existing properties or meeting certain new development, requirements. We're looking at the watershed as a whole. Where are the most cost effective, place locations in the watershed for certain, because of the science that's coming out of the nutrient study, like they're looking at how nutrients are moving and where they're coming from, and so they have a little bit more understanding, or they're developing more of an understanding of their science studies of how we might better manage nutrients with certain stormwater measures that are not based on that initial model and are not based on how the rules are written. So we're looking at what it would look like to be able to say, okay, let's draw this big boundary, let's bring revenue from more people, and rather than just your current regulated entities, and then let's designate that money to, a central watershed authority that would be able to make the determination with good science and good planning of where the best places in the watershed would be to implement certain stormwater measures or practices, investing in Greensboro's wastewater treatment plan, or investing in certain, where they're seeing significant runoff from areas with septic and things like that. It would be a determination to be made by a central entity. That's one of the options that we're investigating at the Environmental Finance Center, is something to offer potentially to the legislature, to show how much revenue could be generated and what they could do with it, which would be a little bit less piecemeal and less fragmented than what's currently in place. I don't know if that answers the question, or how it was applied.
Well, those of you in the room who know me know how strongly I feel about this particular issue. So, in the municipal arena, the problem of water quality comes from up and downstream. So is it ethical for a fund to be set up and paid into by the state and the downstream governments to put towards upstream problems?
Well, I don't know that I'm going to answer an ethical question. I don't know.
Does it make sense to do that?
I think anytime you're sort of managing still question the idea of centralization of controls and centralization of sort of decisions and management. Because we've seen that some of those approaches have not worked historically. So more locally driven management as well as distributed controls, I think is a strategy that still should be sort of investigated and implemented.
Does anyone else want to speak to the locally driven efforts?
Yeah. I think first off, it's one of the reasons why we have the River Assembly and some of the discussions that we can have in that, so we can get broad perspectives up and down the entire Cape Fear River Basin. But speaking again from New Hanover County's point of view, where we are the recipients of somewhere around 37 different discharge permits that come upstream from us, and constantly being the ones who are kind of getting the tail end of things. I think any kind of initiative that would put money and resources towards trying to figure out a way that we could stop us from getting so much of that, I'd certainly be willing to discuss it, and I know we have strong feelings about it, all the way from the IBTs, interbasin transfers, to discharge permits.
Well, again, I'm not an expert on water, but it was always to me that if you were going to discharge into the river, you should have been able to discharge above where you live, because then you're going to make sure it gets clean, right? And so then it flows down to you before it gets to me, and then I have to do the same thing. So if you're downstream, it makes sense to have, I think, a fund, because it all rolls downhill, and everybody's just sending it straight down. So I think there is some, it's all about the governance of it, and making sure that everybody, or whatever entity governs that, make sure it's equally distributed among up and down the river.
So speaking more about finance, and this is also for Aaron, but others as well, has anyone measured the cost of not addressing the problems proactively?
Well, that's part of our, what we're looking at for our third year of the study. But we're basically just kind of investigating the cost to the economy of the region where they've let a significant water body degrade. And one reason that we're doing that is because there's been a lot of response to some of what we're kind of putting out there, which is just this argument about, or this question of, that's fine, we'll pay it if you can show us that it works. We'll put in those measures on this development if you can go out there and trace it and make sure that once it hits the lake, that it doesn't get diluted and it doesn't get contaminated and it works. And so that perspective is obviously controlling only what I have here and not worrying about whether this water body degrades enough that the development might, the economy of my community is no longer as valuable. So we're looking at it, but we haven't seen any numbers associated with that exact cost.
From a less scientific perspective, does anyone else on the panel want to talk about maybe anecdotally the costs that they've seen of not being proactive?
I think one of the biggest challenges the conservation community has is valuation of not protecting the environment, whether it's water quality or whatever your resource is. And to speak to the commissioner's point about their difficult job in balancing which industry should be allowed and which shouldn't, one of the more successful conversations we had around the industrial zoning in New Hanover County recently was we hired an economist to help us understand what our economic drivers are in this region, and they are tourism, they are medical, and they are growing smart industry sectors. And so if you understand that and that becomes part of your conversation, then when you are considering your range of acceptable industries, you do it through the lens of, is this going to harm, or are you risking your current economic drivers? And when we looked at the suite of industrial businesses that could come to this region, we found there were thousands of light industries that would not risk those economic drivers. We found there were 18 that there was broad consensus in the room for which there could be no justification other than political to risk those existing economic drivers. So I think that conversation, again, I'm not an economist, but it was incredibly valuable to have one in the room and to have that conversation. I think that should be part of all of our efforts when we're looking at this balance question.
So for this question, I'd like to hear from all the panelists. Related to what we just spoke about, economic development, what is the one biggest challenge related to growth do you see with water quality in your region or the basin?
Sure. The challenge is seeing that there is a sufficient regulatory framework in place so that the growth is done in a protective way. So that, if we're putting up a whole bunch of new subdivisions on the banks of the Cape Fear River anywhere, is there gonna be sufficient buffer to prevent runoff from happening? If there's going to be new agricultural uses, again, sufficient buffer, sufficient regulations for siting. And I think it's great to talk about the growth of the appropriate industries in New Hanover County, but as we've said earlier, what New Hanover County is dealing with is everything that starts in Greensboro or even above that and comes down the river. So is everybody doing the best practices in a way? I mean, it's going to be different industries. Greensboro and Raleigh and Fayetteville and Bladen County is going to be agriculture, and as you go up and down that river, it's going to be the best industry for that region is going to be something different. So do you have a protective framework that covers all of these possibilities? And the answer now is no, we don't. We're thinking about it, we're working on it a little bit, but nobody really wants to pay the price of what it's going to cost to do appropriate regulation the whole length of the river. But if we don't deal with it in a holistic way, it doesn't matter what New Hanover County chooses as the most appropriate industries.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and just Jordan, the unique struggle of everything being on hold for so long, and then the amount of growth that has happened in the triangle while it's been on hold. I just the regulatory framework, the model itself, is already so outdated based on the growth that we've had. And Chatham Park is on the cusp of unrolling itself right on the paw there. So I just don't. I agree with Tim. I just think a regulatory framework that can keep up with the amount of development in this region is what's necessary, at least for water quality.
199 square miles, that's what New Hanover County is, second smallest county in North Carolina. We're hemmed in by the ocean on the east side and the Cape Fear River on the west side and the northeast Cape Fear in the north. We're not getting any more land, and we also are lucky enough to live in one of the fastest growing regions in the southeast. We're projected to see 100,000 more people added to our local population, which currently sits around 230,000 people. And that's in the next 22 years, by 2040. That's huge, unless we have regulation, unless we have the good work of the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority working to get us water and sewer, especially in the northern part of our county as we expand, so that we can get off of septic systems and frankly get out of private wells, so that we can protect our aquifers. Unless we move aggressively in that, where are these people going to move? Where are they going to move here? Where are they going to work? Where are they going to play? Where are they going to go to school? And certainly, where are they going to retire? We have got to get ahead of this. And I know that's something that at the county commission level and our staff work every day, again, hand in hand with Cape Fear Public Utility Authority. It is absolutely crucial that we create the policies that will help support this. Because without those people, without those regulations, that 100,000 people will not be coming here. And then we've got the opposite problem. In the county business, and I know Glenn will tell me, there's only two options. You're either growing or you're dying. And right now, New Hanover County is one of about 15 counties in North Carolina that's growing, and we're prospering, and we're thriving, and that's a great place to be through economic development, but it all starts with the core things.